Hello, everyone. We have a special guest today, Aravind Srinivas, the founder and CEO of Perplexity. Aravind, welcome to HackerRank AI Day.
Thank you for having me here.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, so for the minority of people in the audience who don't know about Perplexity or haven't used Perplexity, what is it?
Perplexity is an AI answer engine. You go and ask it whatever question you want, and it'll give you an accurate answer that pulls all the relevant sources from the web and cites the sources from where it pulled the information from for giving you the answer. That way, you can trust what it says. You can go and fact check it, look at the sources yourself, and still get the power of an AI that just gives you an instant answer versus you going and having to read all those individual sources yourself. So it's like a nice marriage of AI chat and Wikipedia and the internet all coming together in one well-packaged product.
That's awesome. I'm sure you see this a lot or you receive this a lot. It's a very inspiring story. Grew up in India, moved here, built a company, and you were challenging a large company like Google at its core. It's not even one of their auxiliary products.
Yeah.
Just like take me back to when you actually started the company. Was it one of those things where you said, hey, if I want to start a company, it better be insanely ambitious like this? Or was it like, I'm curious in this space, let me just dive in, and then your ambition just like grew over time?
I think it's a bit of both. I obviously started with the most ambitious idea because number one, I strongly believe in this advice that you're not supposed to aim low when you start companies. Well, you might arrive at a low outcome at the end, that's okay. But at least when you start off with, you try to, reach for the stars. Because it's very hard to attract the right talent to work with you when you don't have a big enough ambition or vision. Because they can go and continue to do what they do and it's less risk. So my first idea I pitched to our seed investor, Elad Gil, was, hey, I want to disrupt Google, but it's very hard to disrupt them if you're having another search bar and having people type into it. Rather, we should let people ask through a glass, whatever they see. So the input is visual and the output is voice. So and that was around the time 2021 when Google had this, DeepMind had this model called Flamingo, which nobody talks about now because it's all like much better. But that was the most advanced multimodal model at the time, and it was very good at visual question answering. So I thought if you gave it access to the internet and had everything well packaged into a hardware device like a glass, it could truly disrupt Google, or at least it's an arena where they're not going to make much ad revenue because you cannot really. It'll be annoying to put display ads on the glass. Anyway, figuring out rendering display is harder than just having microphone and speaker.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the right idea to pursue, and my investor rightfully told me at the time, like, relax, like start off with something more concrete and smaller. If you directly try to do this, you're going to take ages to launch, and you might never even know. You have to work on something where you get very fast iterations and signs of life and feedback from users. So he said, why don't you try to search over a specific set of things and create an experience that's much better than what exists, and build up from there incrementally towards your grand vision. And so we started doing, I don't know if you remember back then, we used to have Facebook social graph. And that was the time when I really enjoyed using graph search. It's a very new way to do searches. You could search for which photos have been liked by what people, what are they doing, or like photos of someone taken in a certain city, or all these kind of things. But it was hard-coded syntax trees at the time. It was not really like a truly natural language experience. So with models like OpenAI Codex, that for the first time helped build a successful product in AI called the GitHub Copilot Pair Programmer, I thought you could use those models to do natural language to SQL much better than what Facebook did ages ago. And we built this text to SQL version for Twitter, the Twitter database, because I really like Twitter. And so we take the social graph. Twitter search was also terrible.
Yeah.
It's still bad. So what if you take that and build a natural language SQL tool, and that lets people ask questions like, what are the most liked tweets today? What are the top tweets about
Hmm.
AI or
Hmm.
crypto, or like who's following me that Elon Musk's also following? These kind of arbitrary questions that we all
Yeah.
wonder but could never get an answer for. And we built that, and it was pretty amazing. And then that's when we thought, okay, this synthesis of LLMs and web data is a thing. There is something unique and interesting here that you can build a future around. And so we made our vision grander than that, and that became Perplexity.
That is awesome, right? I mean, like the idea maze of just
Yeah,
exploring and just latching onto something that starts to
exactly.
work.
Yeah.
Are you still planning to build a glass?
Well, I would like to say yes, but I understand, hardware is a complete beast, and we're not yet set up as a company to do those things.
Yeah.
But honestly, the rate at which these models are getting commoditized and open source, like there's, you know, great reasoning models out there. They're getting distilled into smaller versions. The chips are also like getting better. That battery is going to get better. So I think it's getting there. It's all about timing, right? Perplexity was not a product ready in 2022. We launched it, but we knew that 2023 and 4 it's going to get better because these models are going to get better, more capable, less hallucinatory, better at reasoning, cheaper in cost. We were benefiting from those trends a lot. I think the same thing needs to happen at the chip level,
Mm-hmm.
on device models. So the moment we begin to see those trends, we'll absolutely like try to do something there.
That's cool. That is very exciting. By the way, Perplexity, I can see it starting to take more and more of my own personal
Yeah.
search queries and
Thank you.
things. Because I remember, like, whenever I used to search for like a movie name, for
Yeah.
for example, the natural expectation you would actually see is, okay, you want to get the list of theaters and
Right.
like you want to like continue to book tickets. So there were like certain use cases where it wasn't like
Yeah.
the best answer engine, but like over time, like all the progress that you've made, whether
Yeah.
it's like election results or like Super Bowl results, like where you just like type and not everything's about an answer,
Yeah.
or like answer in the form of text, but like you just like want the information processed.
Correct.
It's like super good trajectory. You talked a little bit about the AI models getting faster or like progressing. So this stream is being watched by thousands, maybe tens of thousands of developers. And we did a survey among them. And there is a very interesting aspect of them being very excited about AI improving their productivity,
Yeah.
as well as a feeling of anxiety or antsiness of, okay, if this is going to be the rate of progress, well, eventually it's going to do all the things that I'm doing right now.
Hmm.
So it's both excitement and anxiety. How do you think about this dichotomy, or what are your general thoughts on this?
I think it's the right thing, honestly. Like that balance of excitement and anxiety is supposed to be there. I don't want to present like a rosy picture of like, oh, it's all going to be awesome. Don't worry, guys.
Uh-huh.
At the same time, it's not doomsday either. I guess I'm just going to repeat the thing that everybody says, that you better start using these AIs and become good at it, or else like you will definitely be left behind in the future. That
Mm-hmm.
this is there's no debate around this anymore. And I think almost every developer in the world is using some form of an AI. Either it's GitHub Copilot or Cursor or like Windsurf. There are like a lot of these different tools
Yeah.
out there, and they're all getting more and more affordable. I think Copilot's been made free for like a certain number of users a month. So there's no argument to not using them. And if you don't want to use it in the editor, you can use it through like other tools, other AI tools out there. So I think it's awesome. Like most of the time, like people who are very good at logical thinking, analytical thinking, uh, kind of don't like code because there's like some mundane work also, right?
Mm-hmm.
If code was all like easy and fun, then a lot more people will be shipping things. The reason it's only few people who are actually really good developers is you need that muscle to debug,
Yeah.
uh, and interest, honestly, right? When something goes wrong, you shouldn't get mad or annoyed. Like if you see a segmentation fault, you should actually go and figure it out. You should learn how to use debuggers, and like you should learn how to write code in a fault tolerant way. You should
Mm-hmm.
write unit tests. These are the things you're taught to be a good software engineer, are all the boring things. Actually, like the interviews companies have for recruiting. That's all like the flashy lead code or competitive programming style questions. But when you get in, you're doing really boring work. Like including like there's even a joke. Google hires the smartest people to go and change a button on the homepage or the brightness or A/B test a bunch of colors.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to do all that because and learn how to write code in large code bases, learn how to collaborate with others, make sure your code is easily readable without like writing a lot of doc strings. These are the things that I think will still continue to be a thing. Of course, AIs are going to get these skills too, but problem solving, understanding things, collaborating with others, system design, all that will still be pretty much very important, critical. And clarity of thought, like this Rick Rubin thing, right? Like he said something recently last week I like, which is tools may come and tools may go, but the vibe coder remains. Which is you still are the guy like, are in charge of you're taking decisions at the end of the day, and you approve a function that's been written by an AI. You approve a style of code by the AI. You can change it. You still decide how the doc strings are written, and you kind of decide what unit tests end up going. So you're kind of like a producer of the code now. You no longer have to type everything yourself. That's what's changed. So I think the people with taste and clarity of thought and good problem solving skills will really shine in this new era. Just like how Python was a big uplift over C and C++. So I think JavaScript made life a lot easier for people. I think that AI is going to have like the similar impact, but at a bigger scale.
But even in that world, do you still think like the human needs to be the orchestrator and the final reviewer?
Human is always the orchestrator.
Yeah.
That's why I always like in some of my interviews I've said this. There's a scene between Jobs and Wozniak in this movie of Steve Jobs, where Wozniak's super angry. I don't think this incident actually happened. It's more like an adaptation.
Yeah.
But ahead of the time.
Which one, the Michael Fassbender one or
the Fassbender one?
Okay.
Where Wozniak comes and asks like, I'm the guy who wrote the code for the app. I'm the guy who built the Apple 1 and 2, and you don't even know how to write code. You're not even a designer, but everybody knows who Steve Jobs is. Nobody gives me credit.
Yeah.
Why is that? Jobs just listens and says, because I play the orchestra. Yeah. I think that's going to be one way to think about like the future. Like it's not necessarily it's similar to how you study in a college, I study in a college. Like, it's not always the people who got the best grades in every like operating systems or compilers or like programming languages or microprocessors. It's not the people who got the best grades in these courses who end up being the most successful engineers.
Yeah.
It's the problem solvers, right? And I think that's going to be increasingly a thing.
Yeah.
The fluid intelligent, the problem solvers would be the ones who are creative people who are going to like really outshine the rest in the coming years.
So fluid intelligence and ability for you to decompose problems and problem solving skills is pretty critical. Actually, our company in itself, HackerRank in itself, is based on the core ethos of skills over pedigree. I think that matters much more than like grades and colleges and things on those lines in terms of the skills. You said something very interesting, like, hey, this is where AI is right now. People are continuously releasing new models, new capabilities. And in 5 years, you would have agents be able to do a lot of the work. There will still be human involved, but it's going to do a lot of the work. And every time we talk about this, there's always this, people bring up this economic theories of Jevons paradox or like lump of labor fallacy, where, hey, as people get more productive, there'll be more demand and all of that. Sometimes I feel like we just tell that to ourselves to comfort ourselves, or there'll be like jobs for humans. But I'm curious to hear if a developer actually gets like 100x or 1000x agency, let's say over the next 5 years or so, don't you think it will have an impact on the demand? I mean, are there like really 1000x more demand that you could potentially see? How do you think about that? whole?
I mean, demand is based on like what the user wants at the end. I guess like there are two things. One is until now, we've never been able to build apps or a software that's purely meant for us alone. That whole concept is new, right? If you wanted an app to count your calories every day of the food you eat, you have to go to MyFitnessPal. But MyFitnessPal is an unintuitive app for me, by the way. It took me a while to really learn how to use it, to the extent that I don't even use it. but it was very intuitive to my wife, for example.
Yeah.
Um, sleep trackers, there's so many apps. There's a whole joke about how there are like always a ton, that the Gaussian curve of like a ton of the middle is like using all these notes apps, and to the left there's Apple Notes, on the right there's Apple Notes.
Yeah.
That's because like you don't need it for the mass majority, but you can have your own version of it that you like. I think that is the first demand supply thing that will be very new in the coming ages, which is we'll kind of all use very different software. Just like how we have very different clothes. There's lots of clothes, obviously, there's lots of brands, but nobody wears like literally, it's very rare to see two people who are wearing the same t-shirt or jacket that often, right?
Yeah.
We all have very different tastes.
Yeah.
I think apps and software, but that'll work for yourself, your life, your tastes will be a thing. And maybe there's going to be a whole marketplace of, someone designing it in a specific way for you, or you getting to do it for yourself. And so that's a new concept. And I think that'll take a while for people to understand. And I'm sure there's going to be one marketplace that exists that consolidates all of this, like an app store. So I think that'll create its own like economy and demand and supply and stuff.
Yeah. How do you, I mean, I'm sure you're growing really, really fast. You're also launching multiple products. I mean, entropy is never your friend as you're scaling. What are the things that you do to counteract that force with respect to quality, care as the company scaling?
I think just use the product. I still believe that I'm going to be that way for the years to come.
Yeah.
All the founders in the company are very actively using the products every day, both as a user and as a tester. And like when you're prototyping things, you got to use it.
Yeah.
Obsess about the latency, obsess about the quality of the answer, correctness of the answer, people complaining on Twitter or LinkedIn or any of the other channels, posting bugs, take every bug seriously, triage them. Actually, the reason I still do bug fixes, not as in I'm not directly fixing them, but still trying to like flag things, is that's the only way for me to understand who's doing what in the company.
Yeah.
Because I go and flag this bug, and they say, okay, this bug is because this thing's not working, and I know who's working on that. And I ask them, how long would it take for you to fix this? I get to implicitly understand how to prioritize bugs myself.
Yeah.
So that I don't bother people in future on something unimportant.
Yeah.
And I get to triage these bugs also myself. Okay, this is happening because, and I get to use the debugger view we built, and we built good debuggers also, by the way, so that we can triage faster. Right?
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll wrap up in a couple of them. You have your roots in India, and and you've been very vocal in terms of the need for India to have build a foundation model.
Yeah.
Why? What is it stemming from?
I just think that India is like in terms of education, our education, the foundations are very strong. Like at least like engineering, math, programming was very strong. So we have all the right fundamentals. Like even machine learning is just very good. Like in at least in the IITs, it's taught well. I don't know much about the other universities, but in IITs it's taught well, and it's also democratized now. Like there's Coursera, NPTEL, everything. So there's no reason we cannot build these things. There are smart people. We are very hungry. We work really hard.
Yeah.
We don't really have this concept of weekends. We just work all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, we are the only like background of people who can compete with China in terms of the 996. America's different. America has the spirit of adventure and exploration, which I really like here. Trying out completely new things. But on things that are already established, I think India is still very good at building stuff well. Um, and for some reason, it doesn't happen. It's either infrastructure or the facilities are hard to convince people to like give up a great quality of life here and go back. And I'm not like, I'm already forecasting comments or look at this guy preaching and he's still staying here, or like the other guy interviewing him is also staying
Yeah,
here.
you can't control YouTube
Yeah,
comments.
okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but just I'm just hoping that there's some brave souls who want to like take up this adventure, and hoping to be supportive. I don't have the courage to go and do it myself because there's too much to lose for me here, and I'm happy building Perplexity, and I also want to bring Perplexity services to Indians and make them more knowledgeable, all that stuff. But if we don't do it, if India doesn't do it, I feel it'll be like difficult to catch up. And the reasoning I'm applying is the same thing I'm applying for Perplexity, which, as everybody knows, it's largely wrapper, but recently building our own models, at least fine-tuning open source models, customizing them, removing censorship, getting better at certain benchmarks. And that itself is taking us time because there's a long tail of issues in every model you deploy on product, and then you got to go and fix them. Suddenly the model starts outputting in another language. It doesn't follow the instruction well. It doesn't keep context across threads. You don't have the long context support. Then
Yeah.
all that stuff you only discover by forcing yourself to do something and getting good at it. If you're just like doing the Nandan Nilekani thing of like, oh, just build the apps, I don't think we'll be very good at because unlike previous era where you just take infrastructure and build apps like the mobile, AI is different. You actually have to understand the details because the apps are not going to magically work by plugging in APIs. You're going to have a prototype. It's good, but you're going to make a lot of mistakes too, and it won't work reliably. You're not going to get the best latency, and then you're going to be increasingly reliant on others, and that's not necessarily a great thing from the sovereignty perspective.
Yeah.
And also, just like, isn't it inspiring for the next generation of engineers and scientists to have something like ISRO? It is. I always thought it was inspiring to have India launch satellites at way lower cost.
Yeah.
Well, so something like that in the space of AI would definitely inspire the next generation to, go and study and make great things happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to do a fun wrap up. I'm going to give you the names of 5 people, and you can tell me an adjective or whatever comes to your mind, your interaction. Let's start with Jensen from NVIDIA.
Relentless.
Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India.
Extremely hardworking and high energy.
Elon Musk.
Man who doesn't know how to give up.
Sam Altman.
Determined.
Jeff Bezos.
Truly intellectual.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Aravind. Really, really appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation and hope everyone did. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.